Now, in the latest episode of her podcast series, Meghan Markle has hit out at critics for calling her crazy and a host of words to that effect. In the fifth instalment of Archetypes, the decoding of crazy, the Duchess of Sussex says she's been conditioned to keep her composure despite being hit with the term, and takes a swipe at Hollywood for perpetuating the stereotype of the overwrought, bonkers female.
Raise your hand if you've ever been called crazy or hysterical. Or what about nuts, insane? Now, if we were all in the same room and could see each other, I think it would be pretty easy to see just how many of us have our hands up. By the way, me too. I feel pretty strongly about this word, this label, crazy. The way that it's thrown around so casually, and the damage it's wrought on society and women, frankly, everywhere. It also has this silencing effect.
There you go. Ashley James. Do you know any crazy women?
I know lots of women who are labelled as crazy, and I also know that lots of women, young girls, go into dating worried about communicating how they feel if men's behaviour isn't up to scratch because they're terrified of being labelled as crazy.
Bunny boiler, nut job.
Well, there's lots of words that tend to be reserved to...
Psycho.
That is...
Stop talking about me. Well, I'm here.
That is a
present company accepted, Dawn.
There are lots of words that are kind of reserved for women that aren't used for men, bossy being one of them. And actually, the term crazy is quite interesting because there is something called female hysteria, which became popular in the mid-19th century, ironically the time that women's rights started gaining momentum. So in 1859, physicians actually came out and claimed that a quarter of women suffered from hysteria, and they listed 75 pages of possible things, which could have been a high sex drive, a low sex drive, emotions, irrationality, and lots of women ended up being sectioned because of this hysteria. So for a long time, when women were upset or angry, their emotions were always brushed off and it's irrational or it's hormones. But actually, studies have showed that there isn't a difference between men and women in terms of emotions. Both have hormones. Obviously, men have testosterone. But men are obviously conditioned to be disconnected from their emotions and taught that being emotional is feminine, which is a sign of weakness. And that obviously has issues for men as well, because, I mean, the biggest killer for men is male suicide. So I do think whilst it's very easy to be like, of course, you know, it's not sexist to use the word crazy, there is a lot of history behind the word, and we do tend to label women crazy. Especially, I feel like everyone you know will have called a girl psycho or crazy, usually because they have upset that person and they just don't want to deal with their actions.
Dawn, Meghan Markle is one finger short of a Kit Kat, though, isn't she?
She's just wallowing in self-pity and victimhood again, isn't she? What is so horrible about her life? You know, this is a woman that actually went to South Africa and interviewed teenage 12-year-old rape victims and kids have had limbs blown off in landmines, and actually said, why is no one asking how I'm feeling? What? I mean, sorry, what? Well, she's not a victim. She's not persecuted. The people she was talking to there were victims. They were persecuted. That's who she should be caring about. This is just utter guff. To a certain extent, I do agree with Ashley. Not so much on the word crazy, because crazy applies equally to men and women. But hysteria, that does come from ancient Greece, and it is aimed solely at women.
And it's got echoes of calm down, dear. That remark made by David Cameron at the dispatch box during Prime Minister's questions.
Men are never called hysterical. They're called crazy. So it's not sexist. I just think this is just more Meghan saying, oh, poor little me, woe is me. And the way she talks, put your hands up.
Well, yeah, Adam, maybe this is sexist because women get called crazy, men get called maverick or legend or character.
No one's ever called me that.
Well, you're all three.
Oh, thanks.
Actually, sorry, neither of you are any of those.
Can we define a woman?
Yeah, good luck with that.
What is a woman?
You tell me, Adam. You seem obsessed with the question.
That opens another can of worms.
Are we missing the the non-binaries here, you know.
Do you know any crazy women?
No, but you have to admit, and especially as a father to a daughter, there are lots of terms and lots of casual sexism, which for lots of people is innocent. But in cases like Wayne Couzens, if his casual sexism had been taken more seriously, it wouldn't have led on, making rape jokes as casual sexism.
Let's get back to Meghan Markle. This is utter nonsense, what she's saying. This is utter nonsense. She's trying to create headlines for herself. We're talking about her now.
No, I really don't want to.
And
By the
she's
way,
going to be
I
in the
never
newspapers.
talk about Meghan Markle unless I'm on this show. People are obsessed with her.
At the end of the day, I was brought up in an East End way to respect women and to talk to women appropriately.
Have you ever called them psycho?
Yeah, of course, right? But
You never called a man a psycho?
Right, I've called women crazy. I've called men crazy.
Yeah, me too.
I get attacked on Twitter every day by crazy people.
Yes, sorry.
It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. I'll call them crazy. It doesn't matter. The word crazy is no difference between a man and a woman. This is utter nonsense.
Well, were you ever a victim of that terminology when you edited the Daily Star? Because you were a trailblazer. You had the top job in the world of journalism at a time when it was male-dominated. Did they say, that crazy editor, Dawn Neeson, that sort of, bunny boiler, high maintenance, any of those terms?
Only once, but I did send them flowers in hospital.
You would do.
Yeah,
correct. And a P45.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, of course I didn't, because on the news files I worked in, you were just journalists, you were just getting on with your jobs. No one treated me any differently, I didn't behave any differently.
What about Liz Truss? Because I feel that a lot of the attacks focus on her as a woman. That, there's the front page of The Guardian. Truss faces new peril as Tories go on the attack over economy. I feel there's a Truss pylon. I think some of it, they see her as the low-hanging fruit as a woman, and I think she's going to prove them wrong.
I hope you're right. I don't think we saw...
Do you think the way the press reports female prime ministers is different? Because I think the way that she's being treated and the way that Theresa May was treated is unique.
Yes, I think there is an element of misogyny there, but I think today the PMQs actually... I think Keir Starmer actually was much stronger today because she was a woman and he smelt blood today. He was never like that with Boris Johnson. He was quite strong, quite attacking today. Never like that with Boris. With Liz Truss, I think Keir Starmer actually was much braver because she was a woman. So she didn't do well today, I don't think.
She's tougher than a lot of the men in that parliament, in my opinion.
That's right. Is the press...
I want to think so.
Is the press trying to characterise her as weak and making that, the femininity side of it, that she's weak?
I'm not sure.
No, speaking as someone that works for the press, no, I don't think that is the case. I think she has shown weakness, and I'm disappointed.
But going back, women want equal rights, but they want to cherry pick the parts that they want to be equal.
Don't tell us what
they're not equal.
The best bits, don't they?
No, so
they want equal play in the boardroom.
They don't want to be called crazy.
But they don't want to dig the roads.
How dare women want equal rights and not to be called crazy?
No,
how
but
dare
men get called crazy, as do women. You can't pick and choose which bits you like.
That's not what's happening
That
here.
is what is happening.
This is exactly
what
There is a
Meghan Markle is saying.
stereotype of hysterical women, but also
She said the word crazy.
One in three women one woman is murdered every 3 days by men, so it's a very
now we're
different
really
playing
going
field.
off on a tangent.
But it's not
Meghan Markle
tangent,
said the word
because
crazy is sexist.
And
Sexism and
Meghan Markle,
equality
I think it's
go hand in
abusive.
hand.
I think it's an abusive dynamic when somebody says you're not allowed to use certain words. That's controlling, and I think it's evidence that Meghan Markle
don't think she
is
said-
crazy and is controlling. I think she's bonkers.